Let's preview what we're going to be going through in this module. So we started off by talking about how we often view our job as growth professionals to answer questions such as how do I increase LTV, or how do I increase virality, or some other variable in my growth model. But we need to constantly remind ourselves that when the customer is approaching these things, the questions they're asking themselves are totally different. They're asking themselves questions like, why should I send this to my friends? Or should I sign up for this? So it's our job as growth professionals to make sure that we understand how our users and our target audience make decisions. And if we're able to understand how they make those decisions, then we can influence those decisions. And that is what actually leads to growth. So the key question we need to understand is, how do we understand, evaluate, and improve the decision-making of our users? Well, we'll be going through what we call the user psychology pyramid in this module. It's going to help us go through understanding, evaluating, and applying the principles and concepts of user psych. We start with something that we call the Elmer framework. This helps us answer the fundamental question of how do users and humans make decisions. The Elmer framework stands for emotion, logic, motivation, and reward, and we'll use it to explain something that we call the decision hill, what a user goes through every time that they take an action in your product. What we'll then do is build on the Elmer framework and understand the question, how do we evaluate and measure user psych? We use a framework called the Psych framework. This was created by Darius Contractor, a growth engineering manager at Dropbox. The Psych framework helps us take something that's very subjective and very soft and hard to wrap our heads around and make it a little bit more concrete by giving ourselves a unit of measurement of user motivation called psych. There's something called negative psych, which are things that consume our psych fuel, and things that add fuel, which are positive psych. When we identify these things, we're able to plot them out on a chart to make it a little bit more understandable about how much psych does a user have at every step in one of our flows. Once we produce this, we then talk about and answer the question, how do we apply the concepts and principles of user psych in order to improve the variables? We'll be going through a 2x2 matrix of difficulty as well as impact and talk about the different pieces of user psych and how easy and how impactful they are as we improve them. So in the next section, we're going to start by going through the Elmer framework of emotion, logic, motivation, and reward. We'll then talk about measuring user psych using the Psych framework, and then we'll wrap up in the last section by applying all these principles through a few examples and key flows. Along the way, we've provided the Reforged User Psychology Map. This will help you sum up all of the principles and key concepts for your specific product in one place. In the next section, we're going to start diving into the Elmer framework.